Okay. We have no real clue yet on all of the details because this just started to unfold about 45 minutes ago, and my whole staff has been on it trying to get answers. We are on the phone with our friends in Washington, but it is extraordinarily fluid. There has been an attack on ICE facilities here in Dallas, Texas. We don't know. We know that 3 were shot. Again, we don't know anything yet. 3 were shot. Word is that several are critically injured. There may have been deaths. We know there is 1 death for sure, and that is the sniper or the shooter. He died from a self-inflicted gunshot. I want to write that down. I want to get into that. That's just evil. I'm telling you, a lot of this, I think, is possession. I really do. You know, Satan's he's done with you. You've done your usefulness. Come home to me. And they turn the gun on themselves and shoot themselves. It's just a pattern. But anyway, we don't know what is happening yet. I don't want to get over our skis and say it was this group or this group. The left is now saying, they're coming out claiming it was a white male shooting at immigrants, not agents. Don't know if that is true. Find that hard to believe, but it could be true in today's screwed up world. 2 ICE detainees were killed, so that is not good. And they were shooting into the ICE facility where the detainees are kept. So, again, we don't know. Here's what we do know. The world has gone mad. We are the best of all the nations in the West. For as dark as things are getting, when I tell you what's happening in England today, and then I tell you what's happening in South Korea, I think South Korea is the model that they're going for to collapse us. So you need to understand what's happening in South Korea. I didn't really understand what was happening in South Korea until I had a South Korea woman sitting in my office yesterday. She was, when they had the vigil for Charlie Kirk in South Korea, it's because she brought Charlie Kirk over and tried to explain to him what was going on. He had just left South Korea, and he said, I'm going to make everybody in America needs to know this. I'm going to make your story very, very famous. Be careful. He took a picture with the people that he was with. I'm going to explain all this because they were afraid that they were going to go to prison, even just for talking to Charlie Kirk. The reason why Charlie didn't talk about it is he was killed before he had a chance. They came to us yesterday, and I told them I will pick that up happily for Charlie. And we're going to expose it today, and it is going to be a long road. I'm hoping, if I don't make things worse by doing this, I'm hoping to go to South Korea. But when you understand the story, that may make things worse. So I don't know yet. You just need to know what's going on because my gut tells me that's the playbook on what's happening here. And I'll explain that more. What else do we know about this, Stu? What other news do we know so far?
It's very difficult, obviously, to suss out what is going on. We do know the shooter is dead. At least there were some reports of them looking for multiple shooters. We have no confirmation as to whether that's actually true. They're now saying at least 4 to 5 people wounded, 3 of them in critical condition. Again, you mentioned sort of what people are saying happened. There was one official that was it talking on Fox News that was talking about how they don't think any of their agents were down. And then we're seeing reports now potentially that the immigrant detainees were the target of this.
Doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but that just does not ring true. And here's why. Why would you do that? I've not heard any outcry to kill the illegals. Not a single one.
God, no. I hope not.
Yeah, right. That seems so far. You know what? The way I could believe that is somebody, an Antifa, is trying to make it look like that.
Yeah, I mean, but there, there's always
crazy people.
Yes,
there's always crazy.
You can't
people.
account for that.
I know that, but that's not a trend. If that's true, that's not a trend. That is an anomaly. It's just too weird to happen. Especially, Donald Trump was being, hammered yesterday for hammering Ilhan Omar. He said she's spreading vile lies against ICE. She was responding to a report from a family of a Guatemalan man who was being sought Tuesday by ICE agents. And the family and she claimed that the agents held this guy's autistic 5-year-old daughter out as bait to try to coax him out of his home. And so they're just making ICE just like stormtroopers. And that's not who they are. That's not what's going on. And what's going to happen is, look, we're reaching a really bad place where decisions are going to have to be made, and we're not going to like any of them. Michael Snyder wrote this great piece that was about the collapsing and then how America is reaching this boiling point. And he said, the left deeply hates the right deeply hates the left, but how is a bitterly divided nation supposed to thrive? How's it supposed to even survive? Those that founded this country shared a common set of core values, but today there are no core values that still unite us because the core values that our founders believed in so strongly have been abandoned. In fact, in so many ways, America is now the complete opposite of what our founders intended. I want you to listen to a couple of things. On the day that we're starting the show, ICE facilities are attacked again. Shooters again. A man in New Hampshire was arrested and went to trial yesterday. He was threatening to use homemade pipe bombs to assassinate Governor Kelly Ayotte, who is a Republican. New Hampshire. New Hampshire man arrested after allegedly plotting to assassinate the state's Republican governor with a weapon of mass destruction. According to investigators, Anderson made the chilling threats to his roommate on Snapchat, bragging about his plan, showing off the materials he intended on using. Then we have a crazed leftist in Oberlin College boldly proclaiming we need to bring back political assassinations. Now, this person called for political assassinations to continue in the wake of Charlie Kirk last week. We need to bring back political assassinations. Who is this person? Julia Zhu, XU. She's in her social media post. She said, I don't feel bad, and I don't think everyone deserves the right to free speech. Some people should be afraid to express their opinion in public. You remember I played that audio for you yesterday where somebody else was saying the exact same thing. You should be afraid to speak your point of view. That is not an American principle. The reason why he's right, the reason why we are falling apart is we have no principles in common anymore. Everyone is talking about the Bill of Rights. But how many people actually believe in the Bill of Rights? How many people believe you have a right to freedom of speech, and the only speech that needs to be protected is the speech that everyone despises or you despise? You do not shut speech down in a free society. The minute you do that, you are no longer a free society. And I've got a lot of stuff, Jimmy Kimmel, to say about that today. But we must get back to our core principles, the things that we all used to find self-evident, that God is endowing his created beings with certain rights, and governments are instituted among men to protect those rights. And we are to rule ourselves, but our society doesn't function if you don't choose to rule yourself. if you choose to tune out, if you choose not to regulate yourself, if you choose not to find something of a higher purpose than yourself or your grievance, then this system doesn't work and you need a dictatorship. You will get the kind of king you deserve. There is no king in my life. It's not Donald Trump. It's the only king I have is Christ. That's it. There is no king but Christ. He dictates my values. I try to pull him in as close to me as possible. I try to be better every day because of him, not because of the law, but because his law demands it of me. His mercy, his grace has been such a gift in my life. I want to be more like him. That's what motivated people in America. I forgive you is what he said to us, what he says to you every day. If you don't accept that forgiveness, you can't share that forgiveness. What are you carrying around in you that you're like, I'm just such a bad guy. I just did this. I did that. Let him say, I forgive you. Confess to him. He loves you. He's your dad. And anybody who is a dad knows, any good dad, I'll say, I'll tell my kids, it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you did. If you did something horrible, I'll visit you in prison, but I will be there for you because I love you. Just be honest with yourself. Just take responsibility for what you did and then stop doing those things. That's a good dad. That's who he is. He is begging you. Please take my forgiveness so you can offer it to others. Otherwise, we harden our hearts. Otherwise, we start wanting vengeance, envy, all of the bad, the 7 deadly sins, all of those things grow inside of us. By the way, this student that was saying that, you don't have a right to free speech, she said that she was influenced by her learnings about Chairman Mao because she believes in the Chinese leader's authoritarianism. She was in her class, Revolution, Socialism, and Reform in China. That's what you're getting in your university. Pull your kids out of the university. Get your kids out of the universities. There's more. We'll get to it here in just a second. First,
NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5 starts at 6.799% for well-qualified borrowers. Call 800-906-2440 for details about credit costs and terms.
You know the reality show I'd really like to see? Escape the Interest Rate. Contestants dropped into a random house with a 7.5 mortgage over their heads. They got to pay off the debt, balance the budget, and call the right people, or they got locked into it for another year of living paycheck to paycheck. It's an anxiety-filled thrill ride that nobody would watch because so many of us are living it. Here's the secret cheat code for that game. You call American Financing, because when the interest rates go up, it's not game over. Not if you can restructure your debt, pay off the high-interest credit cards, and even pull equity to breathe a little. This isn't about gambling your future. It's about getting a plan, a human being that picks up the phone, learns about your situation, and helps make it all work. Everybody talks about financial freedom like it's a dream, but what if it's just a phone call, a 10-minute chat that rewrites your monthly bills and starts the next chapter? Maybe it's not reality TV, but it could be reality for you. Please call American Financing at 800-906-2440, 800-906-2440. It's AmericanFinancing.net. 800-906-2440, AmericanFinancing.net. 10 seconds, breather, back to the show. There are a lot of things that are happening in this country today that are worth getting really upset about and really pay attention to. The Jimmy Kimmel nonsense is not one of them. The cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel is not a freedom of speech issue. Rosie O'Donnell has just said, she left the country. She said, the nation that is America is no more now that Jimmy Kimmel is off the air. He's back on the air, which is weird. She said, this is unacceptable. This fascist administration and corrupt corporate executives bowing to the orange monster America is no more. Well, that's really bringing down the heat, isn't it? That's turning down the temperature. Jason Bateman said, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of collective move to respond to this Jimmy Kimmel thing. I'm not smart enough or powerful enough to be the one to do it, but I imagine there's plenty of conversations going on to do something because you just can't stand by and let stuff like this go on. What exactly are you suggesting, Jason? What is that something? I know you're not smart enough, but I'm pretty sure you have some idea. This is the problem. We have one side redefining freedom of speech. One side is teaching college students that you don't have a right to offend people's sensibilities. You don't have a right to free speech. Yes, you do. When you don't defend free speech, things fester and they get out of control. And the speech that you must stand up for is the speech you despise. I will fight to the death for that man's right to say it, but I don't agree with him. That's the American freedom of speech. But there is a really, really wicked monster that has been unleashed. And we have to talk about it, and we have to lance this boil. You know, the New Hampshire man that was trying to kill the governor, you know why? It's his weapon of mass destruction because Jews must die. These Jew feds must die. Hatred of the old coming back?
This is Glenn Beck.
It always happens with Marxists. Now listen, some people carry pepper spray on a keychain, some carry a whistle, and then there are those who carry a compact burner launcher. Quietly, legally, without a permit, like a modern-day David tucking a slingshot into their belt. My family carries a Byrna launcher. I was carrying a Byrna launcher up until, 12 days ago. I now pack my firearm again because I'm in a different situation. And you might feel best with a firearm. That's your God-given right. Do it. But know that most times it does not require a kill shot, and you can only pull your gun if you plan on killing somebody. This doesn't kill, this doesn't maim, but it ends situations fast with a burst of chemical irritant and a jolt of pure deterrence, enough to buy you the time to get out, enough to make sure you go home. Please, this isn't necessarily right for everybody, but I want you to check this out. These are Second Amendment loving people that just want an option legal in all 50 states. Give it to your kids who are over 18. Byrna, byrna.com/Glenn. Burn. I want to talk to you about freedom of speech. First of all, the Jimmy Kimmel ban is so ridiculous on so many levels, and they are just using this to make Donald Trump look like a fascist, and I'll explain why that's important a little later on in the program today. But I remember when I first started the show, and if you started with me early on, you know I've changed a lot. I was early baptized. I was just in my faith. I was really early, and maybe 2 months. And before that, I was I was an alcoholic, I lived hard, and I had the mouth of, it was a smorgasbord of profanities that would come out of my mouth all the time. And so when I was on the air, I didn't use, F words and things like that, obviously, but I did use the Lord's name in vain a lot. And, again, I was trying to get better, but I had a lot to clean up in my life. And so I get on the air, and we're trying to build the show, and Premier Radio comes to me, and they said, Glenn, we just want you to know you have a lot of affiliates in the South in particular that would love to carry the show or are carrying the show, but they're going to drop you because they're getting too many complaints from people that you're using the Lord's name in vain. And I'm like, I got to work on that. They're like, well, you have to decide. You're either going to stop it, and we're fine either way, or you're going to just keep doing that because that's who you are. But you need to make the decision now because you're going to lose the affiliates, and we just want to let you know that's what that is going to cost you, that choice. Well, I wanted to stop in the first place, but I also didn't want to, end my show. And so I quadrupled my efforts to stop that. That's exactly how ABC should have handled this. And I think they probably did with Jimmy Kimmel. They went to him and said, or should have, look, these are all affiliates in small towns. These are all ABC affiliates in small towns. And, this isn't New York and L.A., and Chicago and Detroit. These are small towns all across the country. And they don't agree with you. And they're not watching you as it is. But you have just opened up a huge wound on this Charlie Kirk thing. All you have to do is go in and apologize. Just stay away from Charlie Kirk. That's all you have to do. Otherwise, you're going to lose these affiliates. But your decision, Jimmy, he made his decision. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to apologize, and I'm going to double down. One of the affiliates said, we're out. We're out. Okay. So how is that how is that a violation of freedom of speech? That was his choice to do that. And the affiliates, that was their choice to say, we're not going to carry that show anymore. Now, it's not going to last, or they'll lose the whole network, which they don't want to do. So it's a game of chicken, I guess. Unless they replace it with local news. I think you can replace a show with local programming and not take a specific show. But, that's their right to do that. Let me tell you what real freedom of speech and violation of real freedom of speech is. Told you yesterday about Katie Hopkins and how she was dragged in because somebody said they were offended or they felt that there might be offense taken because she said something about her epilepsy. She has bad epilepsy, had parts of her brain removed so she could control the epilepsy. And she was talking about it and joking about hers. And somebody who had joined her podcast heard her make this joke about epilepsy and was like, there might be some offense taken of that. Turned her into the police. She had to go. She was interrogated. They talked about throwing her in jail. If she talked about that she was called into the police, she would go to jail. Well, she talked about it on my show. I played that for you yesterday. And I told you yesterday, that's just the half of it. I want you to hear how this woman was politically, figuratively assassinated. I don't think I have heard of persecution worse than this. And she told me off the air, I said, how did you deal with this? And she said, Glenn, the biggest part was everyone cheered for it. Everyone, it was like I was a Christian in the lion's den in the Roman Colosseum. They cheered it. I want you to listen to what she said about what happened to her and her children.
When I was a threat to my own children, I didn't get to be in their lives very much. We had to take them away from me. We changed.
What does that mean, you're a threat to your own children?
So at the point when I was the most hated and I had the biggest voice, and it was decided by powerful organizations, political groups and religious organizations that I would be destroyed, that destruction was universal. So it was my jobs, all of them, lawfare that I'd caused you today. You could say you perceived I seriously harmed you with my speech. You can sue me. Yeah. And they all lined up and did so. They bankrupted me and I lost our home. And then the British government did a play called The Assassination of Katie Hopkins. There's posters that went up around the country. And then my children repeatedly were reported to social services, the kind of care services, as that I abused them and that people had seen me abusing them. And they were little then, and they had to be interviewed separately about whether they'd been abused. And I had got to a point where it was obvious to any rational individual that the only way to protect the children would be to remove yourself in a sort of final way. And I did leave my house to do that one day, because a mother's duty is to protect her cubs. And lovely Mark found me and stopped me, and he then took the children and took them away. We worked together. He didn't take them from me. He took them away to safety. He changed all of their names. None of them have the same name as each other. And then he took them to a new place and put them under a new address that I have no part. I own nothing. And then I left to America. And then I never went to any of their schools, not one day.
How, as a mother, how do you process this? I'm surprised you're standing.
I have sparkles on, so all is well. Because it was a while ago, and America took me in and let me be on its roads and its sidewalks and its clubs and Republican events, and it made me realise I was a good person. I thought I was. And America rehabilitated me with its patriots. And now the world gave me back my voice. The world's done a 180, and I now can speak again. And the thing to return to where we were, about why I have such faith in young people, is that universities no longer matter. I totally accept the elite universities here, amazing, and I so see. Yeah, no, but I so see, like, if you play football here, that really matters, and that's amazing. But other unis, our unis, it's over. My kids, without my say-so, having missed much of their lives, they are 21, farmer. She's a tough bird. She can drive a tractor. She has 250 head of cattle that she runs. In fact, she'd like to come out to Texas and be a farmer here. I'm very keen for her to marry an American. Yes. Yeah. Then my next daughter, 20 years old, she's gone into the hospital as a nurse. She cares for dementia patients, never went to college. My son, who's 17 and 6'4", is a mechanic, is an apprentice at a garage, will never go to uni. And I see that playing out time after time after time. Kids choosing a different route. Maybe they'll do some uni, maybe they'll do some learning, but they are not going to be on campus to get themselves into massive debt, to be indoctrinated by people who look like those weirdos on campus.
I talked to her about this off air, and I didn't go back to it because I didn't want to pry. I didn't know this story. No, I don't think anybody really knows this story. But you'll notice when she said, I have sparkles on, she cut that conversation because it was becoming way too painful for her. I have never heard of, what my family went through, but I didn't have to give up my children. My mother was an alcoholic. My mother believed that her children would be better without her. There wasn't anyone to save her. We were not better without my mother. Here's a woman who, through society, through the left, through the government, imagine the government paying for a play called The Assassination of You. Imagine what your family is going through. You lose the house. You lose the job. She said, I was one of the more popular people in England. And then because I was speaking out differently, I became the most hated person. She's like, I was despised. I couldn't go anywhere. That's not freedom. That didn't happen organically. It did not happen organically. That kind of witch burning happened because of the collusion of NGOs and a government. That's what happened. Imagine, because we were headed this way, thank God for the last 2 years, we have turned this around, but it's coming. It's all over the world. And if we blink, it's over. Imagine living in a society that's one step away from China, gang, where they will take your children away. They voluntarily moved their children, changed their children's name, had them grow up with different parents. She had no contact with her children until they were of age and they were set in life, and until things started to turn around. Imagine you've been so persecuted by your so-called free country that you have to give your children up because it's the only right thing to do, because society will destroy them because they've already taken everything else that matters from you. And so get the children. I tell you, I've always thought she was funny. She's got a, tough sense of humor, but I've always thought she was funny. But I think she is. I think she's a hero. I think she is a hero. What mother could do that? And what society would cheer it on? The British elites, the government, under the direction of the new king, the government that is afraid of their own citizens, not the good English citizens. They are afraid of the Muslim Sharia law citizens. And it's happening everywhere. Don't talk to me about Jimmy Kimmel. Let's talk about Katie Hopkins. I'm going to let you chew on that for about an hour. And then I'm going to tell you what's happening in South Korea. It's worse. And it's all directed to us and your freedom of speech. Next. Imagine you're driving through a new city. All of a sudden, your GPS says, turn left. So you do. Except you're in a construction zone. There's confusing signs everywhere. No shoulder, no U-turns, just orange cones, and lots of regret. Buying or selling a house without the right agent, that's kind of what it feels like. You thought you knew what you were doing, but suddenly the listing stalled, the paperwork's a mess, the great deal you were promised looks a lot less impressive under the fluorescent lights of the closing table, and you're like, what just happened? This is why I created with my brother Real Estate Agents I Trust. We did it about 10 years ago. We've done billions of dollars now of business for helping people buy and sell homes. We help you find not just someone. We help you find the pro that has been vetted, tested, and proven. Somebody who knows the turns ahead, the local expertise, negotiation skills, track records that stretch across market cycles, not just hot streaks. And people that listen to you and have the same values. I think all of these real estate agents, one of the first questions we ask, do you listen to Glenn Beck? Oh, I'm a big fan. Because that is our first gauge. Do they have the same kind of values that you do? Will you relate to them? In a market where one wrong move can cost you thousands, you don't need a tourist. You need a guide who's been through this territory 1,000 times. It's realestateagentsitrust.com. That's realestateagentsitrust.com.
The left's got a roadmap. Straight off a cliff. Let's take the right trail. Glenn Beck returns shortly.
Now, I don't want to frighten you, but I'm going to frighten you just a little. Most people have no idea that this can even happen, but your home, the place you live, the biggest investment you'll ever make, is vulnerable to something called title fraud. By the way, we just had this development today. A woman in Missouri was accused and now convicted of posing as a bogus investor, claiming rights to Elvis Presley's estate, sentenced to more than 4 years behind bars, which is like, look, it's not going to work if you try to steal Graceland.
The White House is mine.
It is not. I owned the Golden Gate Bridge. That's probably not going to work. But like your home, my home, why wouldn't it? You're not watching your home's title on a day-to-day basis. Home Title Lock can help protect you from this. They constantly monitor the title to your home 24/7 and alert you the moment anything suspicious happens. And if you're a victim of title fraud, they'll work fast to shut it down, and they've got a U.S.-based team that actually understands what you do and what you're saying when you're on the phone, which is also important. It is one of those services you never think about until it's too late, but title fraud is real, it's growing, and it can happen to anyone with a deed on file, including you. AI is changing the world, making it much easier for this crime to happen. Don't let it change the name on your home's title. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, HomeTitleLock.com. Use the code BLAZE. It's HomeTitleLock.com. The code is BLAZE.
At least 3 people have been shot at a Dallas ICE facility. It happened about an hour and a half ago. We still don't have all of the details. Do you have any more information on this?
You know, multiple places are now saying that it was detainees that were targeted. So people who were coming into the ICE facility after being, I guess, picked up for various things, and it was not the agents. So if that is true, again, we want to make sure we understand the entire story before jumping into any conclusion, unlike what you saw on the left over the past few weeks. We'll make sure we know the details. But that is what they are reporting at this point. But still, we're still pretty early. Things can change.
Everything in me says there's something wrong with that. I don't know what it is.
There's a lot wrong with it.
Yeah, no, I know. But we have to be really careful with this. We have to be really careful.
For sure.
Because we really don't know. Don't buy any narrative yet.
This is Glenn Beck.